once you load the data into HDFS, so the data will be in the form of blocks. While you want to process the data using Mapreduce, there will be something called input splits will be calculated based on the this file. Okay, while calculating the input splits, this will be considered as a file, and it has some formula. If it is a text input file format, it has its own formula. If it is some different kind of file formats, they will be having their own formulas to calculate the input splits. So because we have taken as a text input file format, so your block and split will be almost similar. Okay, now we know what is our block. Now we know what is our input split. Based on the formula, the input splits will be calculated based on the input file format. It will be having their own formula, it will be having their own calculations. Using the input file format, input splits will be calculated. At the same time, based on the input file format, there will be something called record reader. Okay, your input split may have so many records. Record in the sense so many lines or so many entries in that, so much of data in that block. So what is input split? Is a logical representation of a piece of data. But we should know how to read the data, right? Who will read the data? There is something called record reader. Correct? Yes or no, guys? Yes or no? We should know.
Yes, sir.
We should know who will
Record.
read the data. We should know how to read the data from the input split. So there will be something called record reader. That guy will read the data in the record device. In the record device. So he'll read the data, and also what he will do? He will form the key value pairs. He will form the key value pairs. Okay. So why he will form the key value pairs? Because our Mapreduce framework will work on key value pairs only. For your mapper is expecting the key value pair, it will also give output as a key value pair, and your reducer is expecting input as a key value pair, and output will be the final output also will be in the form of key value pair. Output also will be in the form of key value pairs. Let's look at here. We have taken some example Amazon data to find out the how many new registrations, to find out the how many new mobiles, new books kind of thing, right? So if you look at here, what is your mapper is doing here? What is your mapper is doing here? It will take the key as input, key as a map will take the key and value as a input k1 v1, and it will give the output also k1 v1 only. Look at here the results like registrations 4, mobiles 10, books 100. What is this? It's a key value pair. It is a key value pair. Okay, so let me show you one thing. Let me start this. Let me show you the presentation. I want to make you clear. Is that okay? So your map is expecting key and value. Your reduce also is expecting key and value. So let's look at here. We have seen this. How what is a mapper phase? What is a reducer phase? What it will do with the mapper phase? If you see, the runtime partitions will be inputs and provides its different map instances. Okay, first it will calculate the input space and record reader. Your map is expecting key and value. Your map method is expecting key value, I mean two arguments. Actually, it's a map method is three arguments. I'll tell you what are other argument. It is a key, it is a value, and a context. There is something called context. To runtime collects the key value pair and then distribute them several reducer functions so that each reducer function gets the pair of the same key. Each reducer produces single or zero file output. See what is happening. If you see this, your map method will take your input space will be divided into key value pair, and it will give that key value pair to the map function. Your map function also will take give output as the key value pair, which we will call as intermediate output. That output will go to a reducer. The final output also will be in the key value pair only. Let's look at a source code of it. So what review, how you are telling it will take as a key value pair? Are you telling some magic? No. So there is the source code is designed such a way that your map method, your mapper class, your mapper class will take key value pairs. What happened to this? Okay, I need to take a different workspace. Let it restart. One second guys, let it look at your mapper class here. This is a mapper class which is given by a framework, correct? Your Mapreduce framework. So what it is expecting? Key in, value in, key out, value out. What does it mean? It is taking k1 v1, I mean key input value, and the final output also it will give in the form of key and value. Is everyone able to follow? I think Masudan has some issue. Masudan garu?
Yep.
Yeah, I think you are facing some problem. Is it are able to follow?
Sometimes it's getting disconnected.
Okay, okay,
No, it may be problem with
okay.
my
Yeah. See, if it see your mapper class, what your mapper class is doing, it is taking key as the input and the value as input. It means key value pair as input, and also it is giving output also key and value. Key and value. So it has some inner class called context class. We'll talk about it later. More about what is the map context, what is the reduce context. We'll talk more about it. Okay. So let's say it has some method called setup. Suppose if you want to do something, initializing before you go to a map executing. Do you guys remember anyone? If you guys remember servlets, if anyone comes across the servlets or JSP, there will be something called init method, initialization method. So before actually it's giving a service method, there will be something called initialization method. Suppose you want to initialize any variables or any parameter you want to initialize before calling actual service, we will do it in a init method. Correct? The same way here, before executing your map method, before executing your actual map method, actual business logic, if do you want to initialize something, you want to do some setup kind of settings, like initializing the values or making ready your map functionality. So that we will keep in the setup method. Your setup method will execute only once in the life of mapper phase on the specific input split. Suppose one input split is working, suppose one input split is there, one mapper is there. In that, your setup method will call only once. Like your init method also will call only once in the life of a servlet. The same way, your setup method also will call only once at the in the life of mapper on that specific input split. Okay, suppose if you want to do any if you want to do any initializations before going to your map phase or your map method, not the map phase, in the map method, if you want to do some kind of initializations or making ready some variables, creating, assigning some values to the variables, so those kind of stuff we will do under the setup. Okay, now let's come down, let's count them. You see here, called once at the beginning of the task. It's only once it will call. But you have something called map method. What is this map method? This is the method actually who has the logic. This guy also will take the key, value, and a context. This context is nothing but your inner class context. Context means global context. So it will be having all your configurations. It will be having all your it will maintain the configuration and type the complete flow of the Mapreduce. Okay, and what it is doing, this is the guy who help you to write the output into file. Okay, so here you'll be writing your logic in the your context, oh sorry, in the map method. Then you are giving your output. Let's like look at here, context dot write. I'm writing the output. Where I'm writing the output, or I mean how I'm writing the output, key, which is the key out, value, which is the value output. What does it mean? Your map method will take the key value pair, and it will give you the key value pair. Is everyone able to follow? Anila,
Yes, Ravi.
Masudan, Raghu, Sunil? Any confusion? Yeah, why? Because it is
Ravi,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Here initially mapper class is taking 4 parameters, right? Key in, key value,
Correct.
value in, key out. That key out and value out is this reference type
Okay. See,
because
this is the skeleton
yeah.
class. Here we didn't implement. It is a framework is expecting something. These are called
Mm-hmm,
generics. Correct.
mm-hmm,
So
okay.
if you look at here, your map method is expecting any type. That can be if you pass here as integer, it will take as integer type. If you're passing
Mm-hmm,
as a string, it will take string type.
mm-hmm,
Okay. So the final output also, whatever the output you are giving from your map should be in the same type. Right? See, your class allows only these 4 types.
mm-hmm.
It will not take another different types, and it will not give you different types.
Okay.
That's why we have kept it as a generic. This is generic class.
Okay. Okay.
Those are not reference types. I'll tell you that once you see this is when I
Yeah.
show you the actual program, right? When you see the
Yeah.
actual
Okay.
data types,
Then we
you will
will.
understand.
Mm. Sure. Sure.
So only one thing I'm trying to make you understand here, your mapper phase, it requires the key in, value in, and it will process some data, and it will whatever the logic you have written, based on that it will give you k out, value out. So I'm
Okay.
trying to make you understand, it will take the 2 parameters and it will give you the 2 parameters like a key value pair. That point I'm trying to make you understand, you guys. If you guys understood this, it's well and good. Otherwise I'll put into a different way to make you understand. This is the basic step of our mapper. So first we need to understand it's taking key value pair. Okay, it will give you a key value pair. Whatever the data you give, Whatever the data you give, whether you give a text file, whether you give a database, whether you give a sequence file, whether you give a binary file, it will divide the file into, while reading, it will read the file into key value, and you will process it, and you will give output also key value. Okay, how it will divide, who will divide, I'll show you that now. You guys understand? Raghu,
Yes, sir.
Sunil?
Yes, Ravi.
Okay, good. So now let's look at here. If you see the comment which is given by a framework, what it is telling, called once for each key value pair in the input split. What does it mean? Let's assume that your input split has a 10 records. Let's say it will be not, it will be thousands of records will be there. Let's assume that your input split has a 10 records are there in the your input split. It means 10 lines are there. To make you understand easily, 10 lines are there in the input split. Okay, what does it mean? Your map method will work for, it get called for each line. It means in this case, how many times the map method will call? 10 times it will call. 10 times it will call. Look at here. Look at here. If this input split has a 10 lines, your recorder will read these 10 lines line by line, line by line, line by line. Each time it is read one line, it will give to the map method. It will give to the map method. See here. This map method will be called for each line. Like your servlets, I'm just comparing with the servlets because it's always almost similar to the servlet. In the servlet, your service method will get called how many times? How many requests you gives, those many times it will call. But init and destroy method will call only once in the life of servlet. Correct?
It means on one instance, right? Once that
Yeah.
instance will create, one time it will call.
No. Your method, your mapper class will create one instance. That's called mapper instance. Okay.
Okay.
Inside the mapper instance, we have some methods. Setup method,
Okay.
map method. There is something called cleanup method. I'll show you. Okay. So these three methods will be there. In that, setup method and cleanup method will be called at only once in the life of a mapper instance. Mapper instance means here I'll be writing next map method. Here here it will create a mapper instance for each. Here it will create a mapper instance for each input split. Okay, this is mapper instance. Mapper, I'm not talking about a map method, I'm talking about a mapper instance. Okay, inside the mapper instance we have a map method. Inside a map method, but your mapper is one for one input split. Your mapper is one for one input split, but your map method will call, guys, instance is nothing but an object. Okay, instance is nothing but an object. One input split, one object only will be created. Inside the object I can have hundreds of methods, right? So I'm not worried about that. So in that methods, the methods will be called by someone. The method has to call someone. In this case, the method will be called by, there is something called run method. That method will call how many records are there in an input split, those many times it will call. If you have 10 records, it will call 10 times. If you have 100 records, it will call 100 times. I will show you that. Okay, most applications should override this, but default is the identity function. I'll talk about what is identity function. That's called identity mapper and identity reducer. I will explain that later. First we need to understand what it is, how it is getting called. Yeah, this is what I was talking about, a cleanup method. Cleanup method also will be executed only once in a life of our mapper instance to clean up the things. Whatever, suppose you have opened some file source, let's say simply, not file source, let's say you have opened a file source, or you have connected to database in the setup method. So you have completed your process in the map method. Then it has to close, no? The connection has to close. The close kind of thing you will keep in the cleanup method. Cleanup method. This is also called only once. See here, called once at end of the task. It will call only once at the end of the task. So most probably closing, cleaning up things. So we'll call only once that. If you see here something called run method. Run method. Your each mapper instance will have something called run method. That run method will be called by look at this. Not this one second, yes. Yep. See here will be something called your framework will call this run method. That run method will be called by your mapper run method. Your framework will call this run method. Your framework will call this run method. This run method will have a loop here. Let's look at here this run method where whatever the run method. Okay, let me show you this. If I show that way, you can understand. Let me go here. There we have something called. We'll be having something called here run method. That is comes from tool. Let me show you this. Tool has something called run method. Actually, this is not no decompiling properly. It's not decompiling properly. Otherwise, I could have show you the proper. I could have show you this properly. Who is getting called this? How it is getting called? It was working before. I don't know what happened. Then no, this is mapper. We'll be having something called job.submit. Let me tell you that as well. Let me show you this. Wait for the completion. And here there was doing something called submit. Once you submit this. Click connect. That I will show you guys. I think I'm not able to show you the exact from where this run method is getting called. I'll show you that. Okay, your run method will be get called. Once your run method is get called, if you see inside, it is calling your setup method, and after setup method completes, it is calling your map method. If you see inside the try, you have a while loop. And while loop it is calling next to key value. This next key value is coming from where? If you see, it is coming from your task output. This task output has something called next key value. It's an interface. So these methods are overridden where? Your record reader. If you see, if you remember in the last class we have seen this. If you see in the last class, the record reader has overridden this. Let me show you. People may get confused. I'm showing so many, so much of source code. Let me show this address. Task input. Whoever implements on the implementation part. Open the implementation part. It is opening that. Yeah. Your implementation part. Yeah. See here. Your map context implemented this. Your map context implemented this. Who implemented this? Your map context. From where it is calling this method? Reader. What is a reader? What is a reader, guys? Your record reader. Your record reader. Look at here. What is this? Record reader. What is our record reader for a text input file? What is our record reader? Line record reader. Do you guys remember? Last class we have seen text file input format. Text file input format. Sorry. It's a test. Test is something different. Text input format. Inside the text input format, we have something called record reader, line record reader. What line record reader is doing? It is taking init method. It is taking your next key value method. What next key value method is doing? It is returning whether true or false, whether next key value is there or not. In your inputs plate, if I take one input split as an example, this is my input split, I will be having a records in this. Yes or no? I will be having a record like this. So at the first time the cursor will be at this point, at this position. The record reader will be pointing over the first line, right? So it is checking whether is there next key value pair or not. Yes. If it is there, it will return true. If it is not there, it will return false. If it is there, it return true. If it is not there, return false. That's what is happening here. See, next key value method. It will check whether keys should not be null. Okay, if it is key null, it just assign in the long writable. I'll tell you what is the writables and all. And it also checking the value. And it is checking, it's reading the both. If the key value is available, if the next key value is available, it is reading the line. It is reading the line. It's reading the complete line. Okay, and if it is the size is 0, just break, it will come out. Okay, it will come out from the loop. If you look at here inside, try to understand the code. If you understand well and good, else it's not a problem. Okay, if it is size equal to 0, if size equal to 0, it means no record is available. It will return false. Otherwise, it will return true. The records are there, it will return true. If records are not there, it will return false. Correct? So if it is true, it will go inside the map method. What your map method is taking? Get current key, get current value. Who is giving you get current key, get current value? Who is giving your get current key, get current value? Your record reader. Your record reader. Your record reader, what it is taking? It is taking complete file. Guys, I think we have seen this file last class, last to last class. If you guys see here, it has some delimiter, its own delimiter. Okay, it has its own delimiter. It has its own delimiter. Let me show you the init method. Yeah, this is the init method. First, it is taking the input split. It is taking the input split. Okay, from the input split, it is taking the starting position, ending position, starting position and ending position, and it is taking the split path, the way from where you are coming. It is taking the which file it is belong to. It is taking the file name. Okay, complete path it is taking, then it's encoding and it's taking the path, exact file, right? Open the file, look at here, open the file and seek the start of the split. Seeking means reading, right? It is now, see, that's what your split is created. Now split is created. From the split I'm getting the path. From the split I'm getting the path where the file is located, and I'm going to that file. I'm reading the file. I'm open the file, I'm reading the file using line reader. I'm reading the file, right? So what I'm doing here, I'm reading the file. After reading, what I'm doing in here, I'm forming what is the key, what is the value. I'm reading the file and I'm forming what is the key, what is the starting position, what is the end position. I'm reading the file. Understand, guys? And your next key value pair, in the next key value pair, what it is doing, it is setting the key, and it's also setting the value, and it is also setting the value. It is taking the key, it is also setting the key values. It is setting key and value. If the next key value is there, yes, it is written true. And get current key, it will give the key. Get current key, it will give the key. Okay, now what is the key? What is the key, what is the value? I'll just tell you that, guys. Okay, what is the key, what is the value, I'll just tell you. So now what I'm trying to make you understand here, there is something called one mechanism, something called record reader. That record reader will read the complete line, then it will divide the complete line into key value pairs. How it will divide, on what basis it will divide, I'll explain in now itself. So it will create the key and value, and it will gives to your map method. That's what I'm trying to make you understand here. And it is give to your map method. Look at here, get current key, it gives the key, get current value, it gives the complete value. And based on that, this map method will call our map method. This map method will call our map method. What is our map method? So whatever the map you have written, whatever the map you have written, whatever the map logic you have written, key we have written, whatever the map class we have written. Let me show you that. Whatever the map we have written, here we have overridden the map method, right? This map method will be, it will get called. In this map method, whatever the logic you want to do, you do that logic, and you will emit as a key value pair again. Your output also should be in the form of key value pair. Your mapper output is nothing but input to your reducer. Your mapper output is nothing but reducer to your input. Understand?
Yes. Here context is kind of this keyword, right? This current
Uh,
object.
Not only current object, your context is holds the global configuration. It will be having a global configuration value. It will be having the it will be holding your current key, current value. It has some methods called write methods.
Okay. That mapper specific.
See, when it is executed, if it is a mapper context, it's specific to mapper. If it is reducer context, it's a reducer specific to reducer context.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, understand? So very simple. So who are not from the Java background, you no need to understand this much detail of the source code. You don't need to remember the source code. No need to remember the source code. You just need to understand only one thing. It will take the key value pair and it will give the key value pair. It will take the key value pair from record reader. Record reader will read from input split. That's the information you just need to understand. If you take this as input split here in this diagram, if you take this is the input split, this input split is calculated based on what? Your input splits will be calculated based on what, guys? Input file format. Input file format. If it is a text input file format, the inputs will come this way. Correct? Your input splits will be calculated based on the input format. These are the things we need to understand. Okay, so because in the interview also they'll ask how the many input splits will be created, how how your input split is reading. Okay, so if you see if you see my screenshot which I have sent you 2 days before, in that is clearly mentioned. This will clearly mention first input split, sorry, input format. The input format will tells you input splits. These input splits will be read by record reader. This record reader gives the inputs to your map method. This is the flow, guys. You have to specify your input split based on the input split only. Input format. You have to specify your input format based on the input format only. Your input splits will be calculated. And once the input split will be calculated like this, and it has to read. The input split is nothing but just a logical representation. It has to read, the physical data has to read. The data will be read in the record reader. I have shown you in the record reader class, line record reader class. It is reading the record, right? After reading the record, it will, so whoever calls the record reader methods like what is the next key, it will give the what is the next key. I mean whether next key value is there or not. If someone is calling a get current key, it gives the current key. Someone is calling get value, it gives the value. Okay, so your record reader will forms the key value pair. Who will forms the key value pair? Your record reader will forms the key value pair. This key value pair will be using by whom? Your map method. This key value will be using by whom? Your map method. This is the logic, guys. This is the flow actually. If you understand this, you can easily write your logic. Suppose if I give any problem, okay, what type of data it is, I need to take the data type first. What type of data it is, I need to tell to my mapper whether what type of data I'm going to work, and based on the type of the data, input splits will be calculated. Based on input splits, record reader will be calculated. Then based on that, my number of mappers or map logic will work. If you understand that is enough. You no need to remember all your source code and all whatever I have shown you. So whatever I have shown you is for there is some mechanism at the background. This is what it is getting called. There is some code to go to in this flow. Okay, that's the reason behind showing you a code. Okay, let's take. Okay, we will write our own mapper. The mapper phase extends the mapper, which we will take the k1 v1 and it will gives the k2 v2. And inside this mapper we have something called map method. Setup and cleanup methods we will see later, guys. Setup and cleanup method we'll see later. Okay, you will write your logic here, and this is something called context. So your map needs to be emit the output, right? That output will write such a way that context dot write. There is something called method called context.write method. In this you'll give k2 comma v2. This output will be write into a file. Actually it will not directly write into a file, it will write into in a middle. There will be one buffer in the memory that will be write into a buffer. For time being, you just assume that it will write into a file. Okay, your map method output will be in the data node local memory. Data nodes local memory. From the data node memory, from the memory in the sense it is not RAM, it is a hard disk, local disk. Let me put a local disk. It will be name nodes local disk. Your reducer will pick the data from the local disk and will start process here. Your reducer also will take K2V2 and will give the K3V3. It will take the K2V2 and it will give the K3V3. It will take the K2V2 and it will give K3 comma V3 and it will write something here, and this guy also will be having context dot write. Here he say K3V3. This is the final output. This final output will go to where? HDFS. This final output will go to where? HDFS. Understand, guys? Understand this? Is everyone is clear here
Yes, Ravi.
at this point? So
One quick question.
yeah, go ahead, Madhu.
So these reducers, right? These reducers will be running similar to mappers on each node, on each data node. I mean,
No. It will collect all the mapper outputs. It will collect all the mapper outputs, and there is some phase called shorten shuffle phase. Then your reducer will be launched in a different machine. It no need to be in all the same machine. Whichever the machine is free, whichever the machine has a slots, there a reduce task will be launched, and suppose the output is then the different nodes. The output will be collected. Copy phase. It is called copy phase. The output will be copied to a reducer machine wherever the machine is there, reducer machine, and the process will go in the reducer phase.
task tracker will decide where to run this reducer, right? I mean,
Sorry?
the task tracker will decide where this reducer should run.
Job tracker. Your job tracker.
Yeah, job tracker. I mean, sorry.
Your job tracker will
Okay.
decide where to launch a reduce task, and reduce task will be launched on task tracker only. Task tracker which is running on the data nodes. Job tracker is the master. Master will tells you that where to launch. So by default it will be one reducer. But if you want, you can change the number of reducers. We'll see that in later classes. It can launch in one machine, it can launch in any number of machines. So let me complete the flow. Okay, let me complete the flow. The flow what we are seeing on next screen. Let me complete this. Then I will tell you, I will show you. Then here one mapper will be launched. Here one mapper will be launched. And this mapper will give some output. This mapper will give some output. And those outputs will go into some phase called shuffle and sort. Shuffle and sort. This output will be considered. This output will be considered. This output also will be considered. And after after considering, it will global sort, global grouping, and global sort. We'll talk more about it, guys. If you didn't understand, you don't worry. For time being, you just say that. See, if you see this example, you might have understand here. See here, this registration is giving 4, this mobile is giving 10, this books is giving 100, and this mapper has some output, this mapper has some output, this mapper has some output, right? It will be collected all the outputs. It will be collected all the outputs. It will be collected all the outputs. Let me show you here itself. That will make you very much understandable. Okay, let's look at here. You guys understand this example, no? Of what I have taken sometime before? It will
Yes.
go through sort and shuffle. It will go through shuffle and sort, whatever it is. Shuffle and sort. What is the shuffle and sort? First, something called let me first write output of this. Okay, in this output, what is the first key which comes? Books only, right? Sorting on based on the alphabets. Books. I'm just doing a sort for make you easy understand. So what is the first mapper is telling? 100 books. What is second mapper is telling? 25 books. What is the third mapper is telling? 200 books. What is the fourth mapper is telling? 550 books. It is a collection. It's a grouping. It's called grouping or shuffling. It's called grouping. Grouping. What is the next? Mobile. Mobile. What is a mobile? It is a key now, right? It is a key. This is the value. The collection is value, like a list. It looks like a list. So mobiles, the first one says 10, comma. One second, guys. Guys, please respond. I think if you respond, I can understand that you guys understood. First mapper is telling 10. Second mapper is telling 5. Third mapper is telling no. Fourth mapper is telling 500. So this is the key value pair of mobile. And fourth one is registration. The third one is registration. How many registrations? First mapper tells
4.
4. Second mapper tells no
2.
registration. Third mapper tells 50 registrations. And fourth mapper is telling 100 registrations. Now, is it grouped and sorted? Sorted based on what? Key. Sorted based on what? Sorted based on what? Key. And this is grouped on what? Value. Values are grouped for each key. Correct? For each key, values are grouped, collected. All the groups are collected as a list, as an array, whatever you call. It's a collection. Correct? Correct or not?
Yes.
Anila,
Yes,
Madhu,
sir.
Raghu, Srini, others.
Yes. Yes, sir.
So it collected all the outputs from each mapper. Collected the output from the each mapper and sorted and shuffled. Sorted and shuffled. Now it has to go through a reducer. It has to go through a reducer. So my reduce logic is what? Summing. So I need to do a sum. Sum on my reducer. What your reducer will do? It will take the first key. It will take the first key. Books. Okay, what it will do? First 100. It will take the 100. Okay, initially it is 100. And sum with 25. Okay, 125. Sum with 200. 325. Sum with 550. So 325 plus 550, 875. Now your reducer give output such a way that so reducer will traverse through all the values, guys. We need to understand your reducer will traverse through all the values. Your reducer will traverse through all the values. It is a traversing, it is a collection, right? So collection, if I want to get all the values, I have to traverse through each and every value. So it will traverse through each and every value, it will collect it and sum it. Sum, why it is only sum? Because I have written my logic to sum, because I want the total count. That's why I'm telling sum. It can be something else. It can be some different logic in your reducer. In this situation, in this example, we are doing a sum. It doesn't mean that sum is all reducer is used for always doing a sum. No, reducer you can do whatever the logic you want, but in this example we are taking summation of the values. So now what will happen here? The reducer, it will traverse through each and every element. It will sum. It will says that 375 context dot your reducer image saying that here it will be having context dot write. So while writing it will write into file. While write into it will write into a file. So how it will write? Books 875. Next, mobiles. So first 10, then it will sum with 5, then it will go with 500. So how many? 515. Mobiles are 515. Next, registrations. So how it will be registered? So if first it will take the fourth value, then it will go to the next value. It will be in the loop. Guys, your reducer will loop through all the values. Please try to understand. Reducer will have a logic inside reduce method, loop through all the values. 154 and 100. 54 plus 100. Almost all are 100. Registrations 154. Now all the results are there here. Your output is given all the results. Your output is given all the results. This result will go to the final result will go to HDFS. The final result will go to HDFS. Try to understand, guys. When you have a map and reduce, the final output will go to HDFS. The final output will go to HDFS. This is intermediate data. The map output is nothing but intermediate data. Your map output is nothing but intermediate data. This intermediate data will go to data nodes local disk. Data nodes local disk. Data nodes local disk. Disk, not a memory. So it means your mapper output will call as intermediate data. If anyone referring intermediate data, that means mapper output. That means mapper output. The reducer output is the final output. Intermediate data means mapper output. It is intermediate between map and reduce. That's why we'll call as intermediate data. Is everyone is clear about the terminology? Is everyone is clear?
Sir.
Right? Next look at. So short and shuffle it will go, and the final is reducer. Final is reducer. I hope everyone is understand the flow with that Amazon example. The final output. Okay, guys. So what we need to understand here, two things. The first one, when you have a map and reduce, the final output will go to store in HDFS. Store in HDFS. If you have only map, there is no reducer. Only map. The final output will go to HDFS. If you have a map and reducer, the mapper output, only mapper output I'm talking about. Mapper output will be in a local disk of data node. Will be stored in local disk of data node. Will store in local disk of data node. Understand, guys? This is what we need to remember. So people try to ask you, confuse you by asking like this. So where will be mapper output when I have a map and reduce? The mapper output will be, when you have a map and reduce, your mapper output will be local disk, data nodes local disk. Where it is? Data nodes local disk, local file system, not in HDFS. And when I have a map and reduce, the final output anyway it will go to HDFS. So when you have a map only job, then they will ask next question. When I have a map only job, the final output will be that is the only final output. The final output has to go into HDFS only. The final output has to be always in HDFS. Okay. So when I have a map only job, the final output will go to HDFS. When you have a map and reduce, the map output will go to local disk. This is clear, guys? Is this clear? Everyone?
Yes.
Raghu, Madhu, Srini, Sunil?
Yes, it is clear.
It's clear, right?
If
Very
it
good.
is mapper and reducer, where it is stored?
If it is a map and reduce, the final output will go into HDFS only. If it is a map and
Okay.
reduce, the final output will go to HDFS. If it is a map
And third point
only,
is
sorry,
third point also same, right? In map and reducibility.
could you please little bit loud?
Third point also map and reducibility, right?
Map and reduce, but here map or output. I'm specifically
Okay.
talking about map output, not the final output.
Okay.
Intermediate data. I'm talking about intermediate data.
Okay. In the second point, it's mapper only.
Map only, not mapper. Map only.
Okay. Okay.
Map only. The final output anyway it will go to HDFS only.
Okay.
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 Now, okay, Ravi, you have shown your map. You said that map. You said that map will take K1 V1 and it will give K2 V2. What is this K1? What is this V1? Are there variables? Yes, they are variables. Yes, they are variables. How the K1 V1 will be calculated? The K1 V1 will be calculated based on the input format. Based on the input format. Guys, based on the input format, there are three things. One is your key value will be dependent. First one is input split. Second one is record reader. The third one is your K1 value, V1 value. It's all based on what? Input format. All is based on what? Input format. Okay, Ravi, you are telling us these are the variables, and if it is a variable, we should have some data types, right? We should have some data types, right? Yes, we have a different data types in Mapreduce or Hadoop. We have a different kind of data types in Hadoop. We have a different type of data types in Hadoop. Are you guys understand what I'm trying to explain? Your map will take K1 V1 and context dot write. The final output you will go K2 V2. What is this K2 V2? These are the variables. They should have some type. What type of variable they are? As Srini asked, are they reference variables or are they any primitive data types or are they any what they are, right? I'll be showing you that now. Your reduce also will take K2 V2 and will give K3 V3, because if you see here something, if you see something here, this K2 is this K2 V2 are similar or not? Your mapper output should be similar to reducer input. Let me put in a different way. Your reducer input should be similar to map output. Your reducer input should be similar to map output. Otherwise it will conflict. Otherwise a conflict. Let's say my K2 is integer. My K in the reducer K2 also should be integer, right? If it is a string, how can I take the values from the mapper output? I cannot take the values from the output. It's a wrong. It will give wrong type exception. I'm expecting string, but you are giving integer. Like that, this kind of exception will come. Understand? So there are some data types in Hadoop as well. The data types are I'll just compare with the Java. So Java data types and Hadoop data types. Hadoop data types. In Java, we have something called int or integer. Same thing here, int writable. Same thing is here, int writable. Int writable. We will talk more about what is writable. Okay. So this is a very initial class. It's not a good place to bring everything in a single plate. It looks heavy, so I don't want to bring them. So just understand you have something called int writable. Here we have something called float, or you have a float. Here you have float writable, float writable. It is a float writable, float, float writable. It is a float writable. Here something you have double. You have something called double, small double. I mean primitive type are, see, these are the primitive types. These are the wrapper classes. What is a wrapper classes? Here you have a double writable. Here I have something called long. Here something called long. Here long. When it comes to Hadoop, long writable. Here I have something called long writable. Here I have something called char or char array or string. String. When it comes to Hadoop, it is a text. It is a text. Not a string writable. It is a text. It is a text. Here I have a null. Null is a value, but in a Hadoop we have something called null writable. Here it is a null. Okay, null is a value, guys, not a data type. Null is a value, but when it comes here, we have something called null writable to represent the null value. There are some more called map writable. We'll talk map writable later point of time. So I don't want to make you confused. Keeping a map writable, when you're getting a data in the hash map like a key value pair, and you want the hash map has to be a single key or single value into in Hadoop, we have something called map writable. These are the basic Boolean. There is something called Boolean. I forgot. Boolean. When it comes here, Boolean writable. These are the data types. These are the data types in Hadoop. These are the data types in Hadoop. These are the data types in Hadoop. In Hadoop. Is this clear, everyone? Madhu, Raghu, Srini, Teja.
Yes, Ravi.
Yes, Ravi.
Okay, so if anyone wants to take a notes, please take, and I'll just explain you one example. It's just a theory. I'm not going to do any program, guys. Don't worry. The same theory we'll be talking later also, but anyway, same thing I'll be discussing in a Monday class as well, who are missing the class for them. But why I want, see, actually I thought to spend this Saturday Sunday effectively 2 hours, and then I can at least cover the Mapreduce a little bit. But anyway, it's a long weekend anyways. Even I can understand. The people told me a long back. So Thanksgiving weekend, and yeah. So here also people might be already planned. So not, it's okay, not a problem. But we'll just get a little delay completing the course. I'm very much okay if you guys are okay with it. Okay. So I hope everyone's taken the notes. Let's move next. Move next with a simple example. I want to take. I want to explain with a simple example. I want to explain you simple example. I want to explain you with a simple example here. I will take only one input split, guys, because I want to make you understand how it will calculate the input split, how it will record reader, how your map method will execute. That's to make you understand. I'm taking only single small input split, the small input split. Okay, small data set. I want to say small data set, which is a 64 MB or 60 MB data set. Okay, the 60 MB data set I have. Hi. How are you? I am good. My name Veera. My name is Veera. How is your preparation? So, how is preparation? Prep. Okay. Now let's assume that this is just a 60 MB. What type of data it is? Guys, I want you guys to respond to this. Okay. So I want to hear from you. So I want to understand how much you guys understood. Anyone, Madhu or Raghu or Srini, Sunil, whoever it is. Please. What type of data it is? First, whenever they give a data, the first thing what we need to do, understand the data. Understand the data. First, blindly don't go and design your logic. Understanding data. Understanding the data means what is the delimiter, or what is the common delimiter in all the rows, and what type of data it is a binary data or text data or something, what is the kind of data it is, and what we want from out of it, what we want, the final output, what is the final output we want from it. So we need to understand the first data. Once you understand the data, we need to select what is the input format, type of data. You should select input format based on type of data. Okay, the third one. Okay, now you understand the type of data. Now you need to, once you understand the data, once you identify the format of the data, you nothing to do with your input split, nothing to do with your record reader, because it is a predefined. Okay, there are some default input formats. The text is a known, Hadoop known it is a text. Sequence file, Hadoop known it's a sequence file. Some other file it's known, but unknown file, when an unknown file comes, you have to write your input split, you have to write your record reader. That we will talk. That is called custom input formats. Some unknown files which is not known by your Hadoop framework, for those files you have to write your own input split. You have to write your own input format. Then you have to write your own input split. Then you have to write your own record reader. That's your own. That's your own. That is a custom. But as of now, don't worry about the custom things. Just understand the existing one. So the next, what will be my K1 out of it? What will be my V1 out of it? After processing this, what is the final output I need to give K2 V2 from the mapper? Okay. And fourth one, what will be my K3 V3? The final output, how it looks. What will be my K3 V3? This is what you have to design. Here K1 means what type of it is, type of the K1. It is a text or a number, what it is. What is the V1? It is a text or a number, what it is. K2. What is the type of K2? V2. What is the type of V2? The final output. K3. What will be my type of K3? What will be the V3? So you need to identify your K1 type, K2, K1 type, V1 type, K2 type, V2 type, K3 type, and V3 type. When you can design this? When you understand the data. When you understand the data, when you understand the requirement, the final output. When you understand the data and when you understand what will be my final output, based on that only you can design K1 V1. Based on that only you can design K1 V1. Guys, are you guys able to follow or confused? Guys, if any confused, ask me now itself. Okay. So any confusion, please ask me. So then it'll be easy. I can solve. I can make you understand now itself. Otherwise, I have to make you understand so many things later. If you didn't raise a voice, I mean doubt now, after 2-3 classes, if you start trying to understand what it is, then I have to explain all these things. Now we're at the same page, so I can easily make you understand. Any doubts, anyone? Okay, now try to understand the input formats which are already available in the framework, there are few input formats are there. One is text input format. One is text input format. So as I said, text input format, as I said, the input format is already decided what will be your key, what will be value. You no need to worry, you just need to mention. Okay, here key is offset, key is offset, value is complete line, value is complete line. What is offset? So most of the guys may have a doubt, what is offset? Offset means it will start with 0, 1, it will count the characters 1, 2, including space, comma, everything. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So 0 to 15 is the offset of first line. So it will start from the 16. 16, 17, 18, 19, like that it will start. So offset is not a line number. So offset is something called, it will start with 0 and count the number of characters in the line and how many lines are there in that line. So that is the range of that specific line. So 0 to 15 is the first line offset. The second line offset is 16 to and rest of the lines, like that. Understand everyone what is offset?
Okay, that is the key, right?
Sorry?
That is the key.
Yeah. So if it is input format, that is the key. If that is the input format, that is the key. So key is offset. So what is offset type? What is the type of offset? It is a number type or text type? It is a number type.
Teacher.
Number type.
So if it is a number type, it can be int writable or long writable. Correct?
Yeah.
Long writable or int writable. Because we'll not take int writable because it's a, if you take a 64 MB file, there will be so many characters. The int range is very less, right? Int range is very less. So most of the time we'll go with the long writable. So that's why your key is always long writable. Why? Because it's why? Because it's long writable, because the range is less. What is the range of integer is very less, so the range of long is big. So always, that's why the offset can be very big, right? Suppose if you take a simple file like this, so if you start counting offset of this 1 2 3 4 5, I may have thousands of lakhs of characters in this. Yes or no? So
Yes.
that's why your offset will be long writable. The default the framework is designed, your key is long writable. Key is long writable. So it's a complete line. Okay, it is a line, complete line. Okay, now coming to value. So offset, I know this is the key. So the complete line is value. What is the type of line? It's a text. Your value is text. Now this is text type. This is text type. Understand, guys? Now you guys understand the data types.
Yes.
Okay, how the key and value has been decided. K1 V1 has decided based on the input format, based on the input format. Now if I take a
If
text
any
input,
numeric value is there in between data, how
sorry,
to treat it? If
sorry,
any numeric data is there, if any
whatever it will be,
numeric
I don't
data.
worry. So it is a complete record is a line text for me. It's a numeric value, it's
Oh,
whatever it is, I don't mind. It's a text for
oh,
me. But while you are dividing your logic, while you are writing your logic, you have to take care of that logic.
oh.
Okay, Let it be any numeric value. So let it be anything. For me, it's a complete value. Take a complete value as a string. You can convert into later. You can take the numeric value, whatever the calculation you want to do, you can do it the calculation later.
Oh.
Okay.
Any space is there, it will treat as a character
Yes,
object.
it's treated as a character only.
Okay.
Second input format. There is something called key value input format. Key value input format. There is something called sequence file. Sequence file input format. Guys, key value is simply very simple. It will be actually tab separated. The values is tab separated. First to tab separated, before first to tab separated is the key, after the tab separated is the value. So we will talk more about not only this. There is something called n-line input format, there is something called multi-input format, there is something combined input file format. Okay, I just want to bring to your notice that there are so many input file format which is already existing. So not to worry, at the time comes I'll explain. So sequence file is, we guys know how the sequence file looks. It looks like a key value pair. It looks like a key value pair. The data stores in the form of key value pairs. Okay, so this text input file format, the sequence file input format, or n-line input file format, the other file input formats will look later. First, to try to understand what is the text input file format. Detailedly, first try to understand what is the text input file format and how the input splits will be calculated, how the record rate will be calculated, and how it looks, how it appears, so how it works in the mapper. So then rest of the input file formats are very easy to make you understand. Understand, guys? Now let me take an example. Now I have taken some text here. Let's take an example. Hi all, how are you? I am doing good. How is your preparation? Hadoop is open source. Hadoop is open source. Hadoop is open source. So let's take only 4 lines here. Anyway, I'm not going to show you an example, so example code. I want to make sure you understand from the theory point of view. So then I will take you an example of tomorrow. Okay. Okay. Now this is my text file. I want to find out how many words are there in this text file. How many words are there in this text file? This is my text file. Now I want to understand how many words are there in this text file. Okay, how many words are there in this text file? What type of what is my my requirement? How many words? Word count. So what is my results I'm expecting? Result I'm expecting word count. Let's say all came one time, hi came one time, your came 2 times. So just assume that. So Hadoop came 2 times or 10 times. This is my requirement. My output should be like this. Okay. So you know the problem statement now. This is the problem statement. First, what I need to do? We need to understand the data. What type of data it is? Text
Format
data.
of the data.
Sorry?
Yeah, format of the data.
Yeah. So what is the format of this data?
Text.
Okay. Now what is my input format? Because what will be my input to my mapper?
Text input format.
Yes. So the first input is text input format. If it is, I know it is a text input format, what is my key? K1. What is the type of K1? Type of K1.
Offset.
Sorry?
Yeah, offset only.
Integer.
Offset.
Int in number value. So number I don't want to
Yeah.
take integer because the number will be very long. So I will take
Long.
Long.
Long. Long.
Writable.
okay. Then what is my V1?
Text content, that is
So
text.
complete line. So it is a text. Okay. Now I want my word count. Okay. I want to take a word count. What will be my logic? So my logic will be word comma number. Correct. So the final output should come such a way that word comma one value. Correct.
Yes.
Like this it should come. So my mapper also, if you give like this, my reducer also will take like this, and it will sum the values up. My reducer will always expect word collection of values. This is a key. Sorry, this is a value. This is key. Correct? Correct or not?
Yes.
So what will be your K2? What will be your K2?
It also next.
Word. It is a word. It's a word is nothing but text.
Okay, okay.
Yes or no?
Yes, yes.
Your V2?
Comma, long.
Okay, long writable or
Long.
int writable. Long writable or int writable. Okay. What is your final output? My final output is word and how many times it came? 3 times. So again text and value, text and number. Your K3 is text, V3 is long writable.
Ravi, K1 is long writable, right? K2 also should also long writable. Right?
No need. Why? Why K2 has to be long writable? You are taking as a K1 V1 and you are giving as a K2 V2. You are giving text and number. What is the problem in it?
Okay, V1 you are giving for K2.
Not V1. No, don't confuse. This is your input. This is your
Okay.
input.
Okay.
You have written some Java programs, right? You
Yes.
have written some Java programs. You have in the Java programs your input and output both are same, huh? No, right?
No.
This is your input to map.
Okay, this is the different input, K2, V2.
What is input, Raghu? It's input to map.
K2, V2 is expecting that is also input. That should be output, Raghu. Like he has given that high as 1 time, Hadoop as 3 times, UR as 2 times. That will be the K2, V2.
See,
Okay.
input to it is input to map. Map is taking this. Okay. The K2 V2 is
Okay.
output. Map is giving this. Map can
Okay.
give anything, no?
Yes, yes.
It is output from map. It is output from map.
Otherwise naming convention will use like this: K in 1, V in 1,
Exactly.
K out 2, K out 1, V out,
Yeah.
like that.
So
Then will
to
be no confusion, it seems.
so this is output of the mapper. At the same time, this is input of a reducer also. At the same time, this is input of a reducer also. Why? Your output of mapper is input to
Reducer.
Reducer.
Hmm.
It's very simple, Raghu. Let me put in this way. Suppose you want to make ball, cricket ball. Okay, you want to make a cricket ball, and
Okay.
what is the input to your machine or your factory to get a ball? What is the input? It will be something. You need some leather. You need some stuff which you will keep in the ball, right? Those are different types. Correct? Some you need some
Yes.
gum. All your thing you require. That when it comes the final output from the factory, is it coming as a leather, gum, or it's coming as a different one, the solid one.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Like this. So you are taking input, you are taking long writable and text and input. See, why I have taken K2VT as a text and long writable? Because my requirement is that. Because my requirement is that. If my requirement is different, my K2VT will change, but my K1 we will never change. Whenever you take a text input format, always your K1 is offset only. Always your V1 is text only. Your K2 V2 can change, your K3 V3 can change based on your requirement. Based on your requirement.
Okay.
Understand? I hope you understood. Now it's clear.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so reducer input also. This is reducer input also. Input to reducer. This is final output, reducer output. Because here I need the word comma 1, that's why my K2 is a text and long writable is number. I don't want that. I want something different output. That time my K2 V2 will change. Raghu, try to understand. I mean, your doubt is valid doubt, right? So these never change. K1 V1 never change. K2 V2 K3 V3 will be it's user defined. That is there in our control. I don't want to K2 be a text. I want something else. I can keep it as an null writable. Yes, you can go ahead and keep it. You don't, no one will stop you. Based on your requirement, based on the output you're expecting, your K2 V2 K3 V3 values will change. But K1 V1 will never change because those are input specific, input format specific.
Okay.
Everyone is clear? Raghu,
Yeah.
Madhusudan,
Yes.
Madhu? I mean, confused Madhu? Lot.
No, no, no. Yeah, it is good.
Okay. Now, so now you guys tell me. So I'm expecting answers from you. I'll be asking you questions. So I have taken text input format. What will be my input split?
Block size.
Exactly. Very good. So your block size will be your input size will be similar to block size because it has some formula called max of minimum split comma min of. If anyone wants to
Yes.
make a note, please make a note. Okay. So it's important. Anyway, this all information is there in the documents. I have given the documents. It is max of min split size comma min of max value max input split size. Max split size always will be long value, long upper bound, and block size. This is the formula to calculate the input splits in a text input file format. If it is a different file input format, they will have their own algorithm. Okay, now good.
Okay.
So what is the record reader for the text input file format? What is the record reader?
From where to start that content.
Correct. What is the type of record reader? Line
Line
record
reader.
reader. Yes, line record
Yes.
reader. Very good. So if it is a text input format, sorry, it's a text output. Let me show you one more time. So for your understanding, let me close all others. Let me close this as well. Wrap method. Okay. Let me close this as well. Yeah. If it is a text input format, your split is almost similar to your block size, and your text input delimiter is what is the, and one more thing guys we need to remember. So I have a line one records in the text. How we will decide is the first line, second line based on the slash and character, correct? So here also this delimiter is slash and character. Your record delimiter is slash and character in the text file, okay? And what is a record reader? It is line record reader. So line record reader, there are different kind of record readers guys. If you want to see that, no, these are my classes which I have written. Okay, look at guys here, combined record reader, composite record reader, db record reader. If you're getting the data from the database, filter record reader, key value line. Look at guys here, key value line record reader, line record reader, which what we see, what we are seeing, multi filter record reader, MySQL data driven DB reader. So there are different kind of record readers are available, but we'll be most of the times we'll be concentrating on, yeah, this one, sequence file as a binary record reader. This is important. Sequence file as a text record reader. They have a different kind of record readers out there. Sequence file record reader, sequence file record reader. Okay, so they have their own whole file record reader. Whole file record reader. Whole file record reader will have a whole data will be read in the single, whole file will read in the single split. There will be not be having a multiple split. We'll talk all these things. I'll show you each and everything in detail. Even though if it take time, not a problem. We need to understand the things. We'll take in the detail. Okay. So your line record reader takes lines by delimiting. By delimiting by slash, it will take the lines. Okay. If it is a text type of data, what is your record reader? Line record reader. If the data is type of the text type, it's a line record reader. If a data is something called a sequence file, we have something called sequence record reader, sequence file record reader. Okay, so different type of record readers will be there. So suppose you are taking your own XML file. Suppose you are taking your own XML file, or you are taking your own JSON type. So JSON record reader is not available with the Hadoop. So what you need to do? You have to write your own record reader. Yes or no? Because the
Yes.
data, you know how it has to divide, how it has to read, you know that. So you have to write your own code. Write code in the sense nothing. You have to write your own custom record reader by extending record reader, and you have to provide the body for all these methods: init, initialization method, and the key next to key method, next to key value method, come down, next to get current key method, get current value method, progress method, close method. All this method you have to provide the body for them. Okay, and is splittable also you have to tell whether the file is splittable or not. Yes, you have to tell that yes, file is splittable if it is a custom. Otherwise, if you are using a default, yes, they have their own methods, is splittable method. I hope is everyone is clear about this.
Yes, Ravi.
Yes, sir.
So I feel everyone got some idea about the MapReduce, how this data will be splitted into input splits, then how it is read and how it give to the map method.
Yeah.
Okay, this is the main important thing. Tomorrow we'll not be having a class. Okay,